On this edition of Native Report, we travel to Lakota Ray and visit an Ojibwe language immersion school. We also attend the Honor the Earth Powwow, an annual gathering since 1973 and one of the largest powwows in the region. And we talk with noted writer David Treuer and hear his thoughts on native language revitalization. We also learn something new about Indian country and hear from our elders on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. According to the National Geographic Society's Enduring Voices project, a language dies every 14 days, taking with it a wealth of knowledge about history and culture. The mission of an Ojibwe language immersion school in Lakota Ray is to create proficient speakers, and it starts with the youngest.
The tune is a familiar one, but the words are in Ojibwe as students at Lakota Ray Language Immersion School, Waadookodaading, prepare for their holiday program. Waadookodaading, translated from Ojibwe Mowin, the language of the Anishinaabe, means a place where we help each other. The school was modeled after a similar effort thousands of miles away.
We had heard about the Hawaiians, and we were just so impressed, and we thought, well, how did they do that? Because they're really, they're like light years ahead of us. They have total immersion schools from preschool to college, so, I mean, you can get a degree. And they were kind of we'd heard about them, but we didn't really visit them or know what was going on there. And but we knew there were other communities that were doing it. Given that there aren't that many fluent speakers here, there are no young people speaking it fluently here. All the speakers are over 60. Talking with some of the elders, and explaining to them that this might be our best option right now, with the window of opportunity closing kind of quickly, so immersion seemed like the best way.
Keller Papp was instrumental in the development of this pre-K through 5th grade charter school.
It's been a lot of hard work, and it still is a lot of hard work, and it's going to be hard work, but just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. It's been an extremely rewarding and eye-opening experience over the last 10 years that we've been in operation, but it's all we have. It's all we have right now is this window of opportunity is closing, and hopefully that window is halted when we begin to succeed and as we expand and more windows are opened as we proceed in the growth and development of our school. We could, have a showcase about these are our accomplishments, and those are extremely important for us as they help to feed our morale and our unity as a working unit about how we sustain this. But I think what I'm most proud of is us to just stay at it, that we're not giving up, and we are continuing even through the difficulties of the relationships, professional relationships we have with one another, with the community, how hard it is to connect with the community and get community involvement. We're still with it, and I think what also strikes me as a really positive aspect is of this is our optimism, that we feed our optimism and we extend that attitude about what we're doing and how seriously we take it and how highly we treasure it for the future.
Gash gadino gizis. Nash gego o kidon ge dajindamanga jines. O ma nungum. Oego neshi eu. Gash gadin. Nij non a kidon esan oma. Nij. O basic. Minowa o. Nash gene tamasing. O. Gashk minowa adin.
Elders also play an important role in the classroom.
I think elders in this community, as well as other indigenous communities worldwide, have talked at length about the importance of our language, not as an accessory to our identity or who we are, but more or less as a sprouting bed and the foundation that defines us, who we are, and how we relate to this world and how we see it.
I think it's very important for the kids to learn their language and also their culture. I know they don't speak it at home because most of the parents don't speak it, maybe just a little bit. Well, I mostly listen to them, see what they want to learn. I also help them with the teachers, what they want to do, and they ask me how to say this and that. They also help me how they react and the kids, you know. And I don't even think they know my English name. They know me by my Indian name, which means Shangweshi Mink. That's my Indian name. And I also know their Indian name and their English name, the little ones. They always call me Shangwesh when I get to school, and I really like that.
For many Native nations, language loss is occurring at a rapid pace. Ojibwe Mowin, on the other hand, may survive well into the next century. And for PAP, the question is, what if our effort succeeds?
What does the possibility of our language becoming more widely spoken mean in our communities, and how can we support that? I think we all know what that means for people. And obviously it's a tragic loss, it would be. And I think if we start thinking about, okay, what else can I do to speak Ojibwe right now? What can you do at your broadcast station to promote more language? And what can our listeners do to use more language, native language, the language of the land here, to have a better life, to learn more, to be more educated, to work better with people and understand who we are and why we're here. I think, to me, those are the questions that I think we should be asking, because if we're always living in fear and we're so concerned about loss, I think that's focusing on a problem, not so much focusing on what a solution might be.
Did you know it's estimated by the year 2100, substantially more than half of the 7,000 languages spoken on Earth may disappear, taking with them a wealth of knowledge about history, culture, the natural environment, and a way of thinking. Native American languages are especially at risk, with most fluent speakers older than 50. Many tribal languages are on the brink of extinction. Among the languages scholars and tribes are trying to preserve is Ojibwe. Ojibwe is an indigenous language of the Algonquin family and is characterized by dialects that have local names and local writing systems. The language is spoken from southwest Quebec over to Saskatchewan in Canada and from Michigan over to Montana in the United States. Indian tribes in the U.S. and First Nations in Canada are striving to preserve and revitalize the Ojibwe language so that future generations can know how their ancestors looked at the world and articulated their unique perspective.
Summertime means powwow time across Indian country. One of the region's largest gatherings is the Honor the Earth Powwow, held annually in Lakota Ray in Wisconsin. It is a time to renew old friendships and make new ones, to sing and to dance, but most importantly, it is a celebration of life.
On this time here we welcome in our Eagle staff. We also welcome in all of our flags and our ammunition and trains.
The Lakota Ray Honor the Earth Powwow in Hayward, Wisconsin is a homecoming for many.
A powwow is an annual gathering of friends and family. A lot of our drum groups, they all know each other, they all respect each other, they all have close personal relationships with the dancers, and it's just a reunion. And basically, here in our area, there's a powwow every weekend. And this is just one in a series of powwows that people might make their itineraries to go through throughout the summer, and I'm glad that a lot of people choose Honor the Earth. We have families from right here that have relatives that live in the cities, that live in thousands of miles away, and then make it a point every year to come back to Honor the Earth Powwow, and we try to accommodate them by putting you know, all of the amenities that are involved. We have to have services and transportation for elders. We try to feed our visitors. It takes a lot of coordination, not just by me, but we have 12 other committee members, and we all work very hard to try to make this as easy as possible.
For others, Honor the Earth, held annually since 1973, is a time to remember its origins as a result of civil activism.
It was a celebration to recognize and remember the takeover of the Winter Dam in 1971. And tribes throughout Wisconsin had powwows starting on their reservations. We were in a period of time where tribes were asserting their sovereignty. And one way of doing that was to put on display the culture, the heritage, the language of, you know, our much of our legacy.
For others, this celebration is one full of honor and honoring. All veterans of the armed services are honored. The sacrifices they have made are held in high esteem.
I think it's a great honor that we represent the warriors, the Ogeechda, the Ogeechdaque, in leading out our people. As we look historically, that the warriors have always taken care of the villages, the young ones, the elders, providing for them, security-wise and also for sustenance. And so as I watch our elder veterans come into the dance arena along with the young, it brings a sense of pride and identity of who we are, and also by the songs that are sung by the nations represented here today.
Our LCO Ambus Post 1998 is not a strictly Native American, you know, and we include everybody, and they're even proud themselves to be able to come here and to see how we do treat the veterans, the Native people, treat the veterans with such high regard, you know, for their service.
My prayers go out to our young people that are serving in Afghanistan and Iraq or in harm's way, and I also think of the veterans that are in Korea, stateside, and other areas throughout the world. And so I say to the parents and to their loved ones that Lakota Ray thinks of them often.
Powwows are social gatherings, and Honor the Earth is no different. It is a time to reconnect with old friends, make new ones, share a laugh, and to feast. However, the singing and dancing are the main event. As night falls over the grounds, one of the oldest dances, the snake dance, begins. The dance imitates the journey of a snake and is a metaphor for life and the rebirth into life's stages. The dancers follow each other in a single line, winding in and out in a snake-like manner. And the transformation happens. The snake sheds its skin. This is a renewal of life. After coiling and uncoiling, the dancers make their way over a stick, representing the boundary between this world and the next, to join those who have walked on into the spirit life. On this evening, the beat of the drums and the singing echo into the darkness. This is Honor the Earth.
We all had Indian names at home, and which means that we were spoken in Indian all the time with my parents and my grandparents. Most of the people that I know when I was growing up, they all spoke Ojibwe, but they also have English names. And each one of us, I grew up in a big family, we each have our own Indian names and English names, which I'm very proud that I grew up talking Ojibwe. I never know an English word till I went to school when I was 6 years old. And that's why I learned how to speak English.
As a boy growing up on the Leech Lake Reservation in northern Minnesota, David Treuer heard the Ojibwe language spoken on a daily basis. He knew words and phrases, but was not fluent. It was relatively recent when he decided he had to learn the language. For Treuer, Ojibwe is a living language, and he is an advocate for its revitalization.
Here.
As David Treuer and his son enjoy a brisk fall day in Minneapolis, Minnesota, he speaks to his son in the only language his son has ever known, Ojibwe.
Okay?
It's one small effort on Treuer's part towards the larger effort of language revitalization.
It's a chance for us to define ourselves by what we have, as opposed to define ourselves by what's been taken away. And you know, we're familiar with that old story, and it's true. The old story of the land is stolen, opportunities are destroyed, you know, culture is is obliterated. These are the ways that we've come to think of our history, is not who we are, what we've done, but what we've survived. And language revitalization and the cultural revitalization that goes hand in hand with it, because the two are really closely linked, is a chance for us to define ourselves in our own terms and on our own terms, and to remember that we're who we are because of what we have, as opposed to what we've lost.
A published author and teacher, Treuer grew up with the Ojibwe language spoken around him, but he spoke very little. He was in his early 20s when he made the decision to learn the language, and it was because of his older brother, Anton.
I have to say my brother sparked me. It was inspiring, you know, not just that he knew a lot or that he could say a lot, but that by virtue of what he could say and how he could understand them, I mean, these fractures that all of us feel sometimes between ourselves and elders, and the fractures they feel, the disconnect they feel from us, because it's not just one way. I mean, they often feel they don't understand us. We often feel we don't understand them. That I saw those fractures being healed in his endeavors, and I was really inspired by that. I wanted that for myself, but even more so, I wanted that for my kids.
His thoughts on language revitalization cover many areas: history, social issues, and identity, to name a few.
It's the direction that I think a whole new generation of Native people are heading. You think about it, you know, 1970, 40 years ago, around the time of my birth, the American Indian movement was trying to change everyone's minds about us, the government, the American public, things like that. AIM was looking out and trying to change how the world treated us. Effectively sometimes, ineffectively at other times, but everything's mixed. But what we see in this current generation is a generation that's not looking out like that to try and convince people to be better toward Indians. It's looking in to try and change things.
Treuer points out with the loss of language, there is a loss of meaning and understanding in our relating to one another.
This is the example that I might have mentioned before, but the word for namesakes, my sake, Niawe'e, is, means my namesake. Niau is my body or my soul. So incorporated in that word is the understanding that when you become someone's namesake in an Ojibwe ceremony, you give them a name, or you're either conducting the ceremony or you're a part of it, that you're not just giving a name, but you're giving part of yourself. So there's some sort of reciprocity. You're giving part of yourself to the person being named, and they're giving part of themselves to you, so you're bound. You're gifting part of your soul, you're receiving part of someone else's soul, and as a result, and that's understood. That's understood in the word, and a fluent speaker, would intuit that, even if they didn't think about it consciously. They would understand that. And so if those words die, if our language dies, our understandings of how we relate to one another could also die.
Language revitalization efforts, such as Waadookodaading on the Lakota Ray reservation, are aimed at the youngest, and how successful these efforts are will be determined years from now.
Right now, it's immersion schools that start at the preschool age. That's the best way to teach the language, because language acquisition is not and this is a big problem for those immersion schools. Language acquisition is not a 5-year thing, but making a community, creating fluency in a community, not just in individuals, is not a 5-year process. It's not a 10-year process. It's not even a 20-year process. It's actually more of a 50-year process. Because the real test will be not if this cohort of kids who's being taught now learns Ojibwe while they're being taught it, but if their kids and grandkids speak it as a first language. That's the test.
The future will tell if the Ojibwe language survives, and as dark as that future may seem, Treuer feels there is still hope and opportunity for the survival of the language.
We have a unique geographical situation, right? I mean, you think about the Choctaws, or you think about Ponkas or Cheyenne. There are a few communities, but they are completely surrounded by everybody else, right? America, Mexico, Americans. In the Ojibwe context, there are many, many more reservations. We have more reservations, I think, than anybody else, spread over a bigger area. And to the north of us, we're not surrounded. It's actually a frontier, you know? To the north, once you get past Fort Francis, International Falls, Thunder Bay, that's Ojibwe country.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us on the web at nativereport.org. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is an enrolled member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Tad Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation. Member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Tad Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.